This is Alex, and welcome to Barely Braided, where we're taking a deep, deep dive into foster care, adoption, and all things parenting, even the sticky stuff.
Hola.
Beep, 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 beep. Our Spanish needs some help.
Hola.
We are coming to you live for episode, again, I have no idea, after a very long hiatus in Tulum, Mexico.
Yep.
Hello. Hola, señor.
¿Cómo está?
Yeah, our Spanish really needs some help, but I've been doing Duolingo for like 2 months now, and
she knows 3 words: hola, adios, and
I told the doorman this
dinero.
morning. No. I told the doorman this morning.
Now you think
Muy fácil, and he understood me.
Now you're acting bougie because you said you spoke to the doorman.
Well, he is a door. I mean, okay, so let's just clear this up a little bit. He's a front desk attendant. I mean, he is a doorman.
Yeah, technically, I suppose.
So we owe a little bit of an explanation. Number one, I'm really sorry that we haven't podcasted in a really long time, but we've had many big and stressful events happening, and we don't need to give excuses, right?
No.
We've just had a lot going on, and we also kind of wanted to keep some things like private between us because we had some big deals in the works, and the big deals fell through. So
One big deal.
Yeah, now we can talk about it. But another precursor to this episode, I want to apologize about the audio quality. It might be bad because we're literally talking into an iPad right now.
And we're going on an excursion here in like 45 minutes to an hour, and we just thought, we don't have a whole lot going on, so we thought we'd do a quick podcast.
Yep. So, where do we start?
I think we start with, our life events.
Okay. So, where does that start? I can't even remember where we left off. I know.
So, we've told people that, one day, I think we've told people that one day we're planning to move to South Dakota.
Yes, and I know we talked about the fact that we opened our business.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where we left it and where we were confused for a long time is just kind of waiting on a timeline because
for TPR and adoption
and
all those things.
Yeah, so some of that has kind of played itself out. So we ended up being assigned a TPR date in January, and then come to find out the appropriate paperwork wasn't filed in time, and so our TPR was pushed off until March. April. Yes, that's right.
So randomly, while we were just getting back from our trip to South Dakota over Christmas, Alex kind of nonchalantly asked our adoption attorney, who used to be a DCS attorney, if it's unheard of for us to, or for people to take a child in foster care to move to another state. And she said, no, it's not weird at all.
Yeah, well, she made it sound like it's kind of difficult and it won't happen in very many scenarios, but there are select scenarios where the circumstances dictate that it might be allowed.
Right. So Alex emailed the caseworker and caseworker supervisor, and they said,
yeah, we'll get it in the works. We'll request permission. And the way they made it sound is that they needed to request permission from the court system. And later we learned that this is just another form of ICPC. So for people who aren't familiar with that, ICPC occurs, I think, most commonly when a foster child is being transitioned into the custody of a family member or a close friend out of state. So they're in custody, let's say in Davidson County, Tennessee. However, grandma lives in Ohio, so they're transitioning to grandma's house for foster care. So that would be like an ICPC agreement where Tennessee and Ohio work together basically to coordinate the care of this child.
Facilitate, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what we're doing, except for instead of the child being moved from one family to another, the entire family is moving out of state. And my understanding is we still have to do the training in Tennessee, and then we'll get a South Dakota caseworker. So long story short, I mean, we really had to...
We randomly asked the caseworker, and they they said, yeah, we'll put it in the works. And so we kept checking week after week after week. And about a month and a half went by. And Alex and I were both, I'm off on Mondays. So Alex and I were both home just hanging out. And she started to walk up the stairs and she said, the supervisor's calling. And she answers the phone and she's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know a status on your request to move with your foster daughter. She's like, yeah, y'all can leave anytime you want. And we're just kind of dumbfounded, like
we didn't realize it was that simple as like asking for permission. We had to give them like the address where we'd be living, the new pediatrician we'd be seeing, like a few little things like that. But I think a lot of it too has to do with the fact that number one, we're so close to TPR. Number two, we're the only family she's ever known. Like at this point, the chance of something happening other than adoption, I know it's never out of the question, but I think is very slim. So I think that's what gives them the confidence to allow us permission to move with her.
Yeah.
So she's not yet formally adopted. However, we do have permission to move with her, but we haven't moved yet. So that's where we are.
Yeah. So we're planning to move in a couple
3
weeks.
weeks. Yeah.
We've had a really wild ride, though, the last, since that information came about. We've almost bought a house out there to Airbnb. We've sold our house in Nashville, and we've gone to
vacation in Tulum.
Yeah, and we're in Mexico right now. So it's been a wild ride, but it's been stressful. But luckily, we haven't had any arguments really, and.
No, yeah, like you and I together have handled the stress really well, I think. And our trip here has been kind of weird. Yeah, because I guess I don't know. I think we didn't realize that Tulum, I think we thought it was more developed at this point than it is. Like, you see the Instagram photos and the beach clubs and, all of the pretty people doing all of the exciting touristy things. And that's the picture I had in my head of Tulum. But in reality, yes, those things exist, but the area is not as developed as you would think, throughout.
I don't know if anybody here has ever been to Tijuana, but I lived in San Diego for 7.5 years. And if you've been there, it's dirty. It's very third world country. And I don't think Tulum is quite as bad, but it's very, very close. If you get off the beaten path, you're looking at huts with palm tree leaves for roofs and thatch and, just sticks. Really?
The dogs eating garbage.
Yeah, it's really bad. And we went off like the beaten path. Our GPS told us to do it, but it took us through this. I mean, it looked like a motocross track, the road. It was so bad.
Yeah, most of the roads are good. They're paved and everything is fine. But like Joel said, if you get onto these like select roads in the city, you cannot go more than 3 or 4 miles an hour because you will bottom out. That's how bumpy they are. They're made of dirt. When we did this for the first time, I didn't even realize that cars were supposed to drive on these roads. But I mean, that's the way of life. But with that being said, it's a beautiful area and the people have been nothing but wonderful to us.
And the food has been really good.
The food is that's my favorite part about being here is the food.
But I think Alex will agree that next time we'll go with Joel's all-inclusive idea.
Yeah, I feel like there are kind of two mindsets here. Like we could do the all-inclusive. It's going to be like expensive, beach club. Everybody speaks English, a little bit more touristy, but everything is like convenient and right there. Or we can do it kind of like we did this trip and live more like a local.
Yeah.
I mean, we're staying in town. We are within walking distance of, where the locals live and where they shop. And we've, went into their supermarket. And so we are living
that was an experience in and of itself.
Yeah, we are living like locals right now,
But the place we're staying at is super nice.
It's beautiful. Oh, we got to tell this story about the construction.
Yeah.
So when I booked this place, it's an Airbnb, super reasonable. I think we paid
like $80 to $100 a night.
Mm-hmm. And it said in the listing that they were reducing the Airbnb cost because of construction starting in October of 21 and going for approximately 3 months. Well, so that would be through what, like January, and it's March now. So I was like, maybe there's a chance they're done with it. And then I went in to read the most recent reviews, and they were all just beaming. This is a wonderful, wonderful place. And so I figured if the construction was bad and if it was truly like an annoyance or an inconvenience, somebody would have mentioned that in a recent review, and there was no mention of that at all. So we get to our first night, we lay down to go to sleep, and what happens?
We slept good from like 10 o'clock until about 1. And then all of a sudden you hear like, like electronic dance music.
Right outside our door.
Right outside our door.
So this is an apartment complex.
It's like condos.
Yeah,
It's a 3-story condo. We have like a living room, a bedroom, and then we have a rooftop.
Yes.
So we hear this, and I don't think you woke up right away.
No, I didn't hear the partying right away, but I
was up for like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, I sleep with earplugs, so I didn't hear it at all. And finally, Joel and I are both up listening to this.
At 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's been going on for hours. And Joel goes downstairs and peeks his head out the window and says, shh, to the people. Because you never know.
They're literally right outside our door partying.
So we thought.
Yeah. So I shushed the people, and they look at me, and the lady's like speaking in another language. Come to find out, it's French. But
and you couldn't understand him, so
and I couldn't understand him,
the
so I shut the door and went back to bed. I have noise canceling earphones, so I put those on and started listening to some music, and I finally fell asleep. I think at like 5:30.
Mm-hmm. And then
at like 6:15, we hear boom, boom, boom,
super loud,
like shake your walls loud, and we're like, "What?" And the construction has started already. It's like 6:15.
Yeah, and so loud. Like this is not like hammers in the distance. This is like somebody's hammering your wall in.
Yeah. So it finally stops like a half an hour or so later, and we go back to sleep until about 8. And we get up and we go down to have breakfast, and we're like, okay, the elevator's broke. Okay, we go downstairs. It's just 2 floors or whatever, and there's cement everywhere.
Yeah, come to find out, the people who were partying right outside our door overloaded this little tiny elevator as they were drinking and partying.
Yeah, Alex and I thought it was kind of claustrophobic, just the two of us.
Yeah, it was a little tiny elevator.
They had, and it's the sign on there, we noticed said 6 people max, and we're like, 6 people? How are you going to get 6 people in here?
Yeah, we barely
They put 10 Frenchies in there.
Yeah, 10 people, they fit in this elevator, got it stuck, broke the elevator, and then
fire department, El Bomberos, had to come and
rescue them.
They sledgehammered the wall open and had to open it up, and the people had to crawl through the broken wall and down a ladder.
Yeah, and
pay $6,000.
Yeah, their fine was $6,000. But when I think of a wall, I think of like wood beams and drywall. No, the walls here are made of cinder blocks.
Yeah.
They had to sledgehammer through the wall made of cinder blocks to rescue these people from the airport. And it was not construction. It was that construction that we heard. So that was really interesting. But
last night we slept really good.
Yeah, no parties, no rescuing from an elevator last night. So it was quiet, it was peaceful, and I think we're ready to have a good day today.
So, a lot of people notice that we like our whiskey, right? So the only thing we've really found down here is Jack Daniels. So we're not drinking Jack Daniels right now. We are drinking a Caribe Cooler.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I like it, but I've also been drinking coffee all morning, so there might just be like some sort of weird
aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
After.
So I think we wanted to just talk about like a few things we've learned. Granted, we've only been in Tulum for 2 days?
2.5, yeah.
Yeah, so we just wanted to talk about like a few of our little travel tips because I feel like we came pretty thoroughly prepared. Like I did quite a bit of research and I've been to Mexico a few times. So we just wanted to talk about like what we wish we would have known even after all the research.
Sure.
Thing number 1.
Alex did a lot of research. Joel did not.
Mm-hmm. Thing number 1, I would say we did not bring enough cash/pesos.
Yeah, and if you've been to other areas of Mexico, a lot of the places, I've been to like Mazatlan and Cabo and
Playa, Cancun.
Yeah. And all of those, like the waiters and stuff, appreciate American money. Down
Not
here, not here.
They want pesos.
They want pesos, so
yeah.
bring pesos.
I mean, granted, our credit card has worked maybe like 80% of places, but they're like most of the tourist places, the excursions, the like adventure sort of things, the cenotes, they require cash
and
or
make
pesos.
make sure your cash
is not
ripped or wrinkled. They will not take it. It has to be crisp.
Yeah, they turned away our $20 bill because there was like a little teeny tiny rip in it. That was so interesting.
Yep.
I would also suggest being like vaguely familiar with the exchange rate, because I think there's a big discrepancy in exchange rates from place to place. Mm-hmm. Or like if you're calculating,
they set their own at a lot of the like restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of times you get a better deal if you pay in pesos, but then you also have to be sure you're like accurately doing the math to give them the correct amount and the correct tip. And
yep.
You know, most of the time they'll help you. But I personally don't like being like flustered, looking like an idiot trying to calculate it. So I got an app on my phone.
And I will tell them that I carry an American Express and there's no transaction fees for foreign. So it's actually cheaper to use your Amex than it is to use pesos or anything like that, because when they submit it, it's in pesos, but it automatically comes through to Amex as American dollars. And the exchange rate is the actual exchange rate, not the one that the restaurant's posting.
Yeah.
Or wherever you're at. So.
Yeah, and kind of related to that too, like if you need help or if you have questions or something, I guess I kind of selfishly assumed that everybody spoke English. And I would say a lot of people do, but there are many people who don't. So for example, like the first doorman when we came in did not speak English when we were arriving. So if we didn't know where we were going or had problems getting into our apartment or whatever, we would not have been able to communicate with him. So I would say like probably like 65% of people speak English, you think?
Probably. At least speak some.
Yes, some English, but even then, like,
very broken.
Like if I was trying to dispute a bill with somebody, or if I like needed help or something like kind of specific, like non-basic, there's a decent chance that the other person won't be able to understand you or help you. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of interesting. Okay, so let's talk driving. I know we talked about the roads. I didn't realize two things. One, I didn't realize our car was going to be a manual, which is fine. But I also didn't realize that our rental car was not going to be picked up at the airport.
Yeah.
So we didn't realize we were going to have to jump in a shuttle and take it to the car rental place and then, you know, drive from the rental place to our apartment. Also, when you get off the flight into the area where you get on the shuttles, it's a madhouse. Like people waiting for their parties to arrive, like dozens and dozens of different shuttle companies. Everybody's kind of trying to get you to ride on their shuttle. And, you know, there are people who are helpful and they'll point you in the right direction, but I just didn't realize that chaos. Like I didn't realize what I was stepping into once we exited the doors, I guess.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So there are no traffic rules.
It's a free-for-all.
It is a free-for-all. Like, there are no rules.
This town's, I think it's 50,000. Mm-hmm. But we made the mistake of coming down here during spring break, not realizing that it was spring break. So there's people everywhere. And it's literally like, it's a free-for-all. There's 50,000 people plus the influx of whoever. And I've seen, 2 stoplights?
Yeah.
Tons of roundabouts. So luckily we got the good insurance in the car.
It's like a legit game of chicken anytime you're at an intersection. It's like who will be most pushy gets to go through first. Yeah. Is just how it works. It's really scary.
If you're if you're a bus, you just go. Yeah.
They don't even there's no looking both ways, and there's also a lot of bicyclists, which kind of freaks me out a little bit because
and mopeds.
Yeah, because I mean the stakes hitting one of those are obviously much higher. So that's kind of scary. Okay, I have 2 more travel tips, and maybe at the end of this we'll have more, like at the end of our trip. But I figured being in an underdeveloped country or an underdeveloped area, they wouldn't really care about masks for COVID. But they do, like even in the supermarket.
I think we've seen more masks here than we have at home.
Yeah, so if you plan to come here, bring lots of masks because you will be asked to wear them. Everywhere. And the other thing deals with the supermarket as well. Bring your own bags. Cloth, reusable shopping bags. Because
the lady looked at me like I was crazy when I asked her for a bag.
Yeah, and I think we had to pay for it, too.
Yeah.
The shopping bags.
Yeah.
So that's kind of all the stuff that I could think of right off the bat. What do you think?
Yeah, as far as travel tips, it'll be interesting to see how I think we'll be able to provide a little bit more insight into our story when, as far as the ICPC works, once we move, then we'll be assigned a caseworker out there, I believe. But, I mean, TPR will happen, hopefully, before we actually leave Nashville in the next couple weeks. So we're looking forward to that. And then,
this is our first TPR. We've never had a TPR before, so I'm excited to kind of like learn the process, learn how it works, and be able to share that because I know that's such a huge part.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big thing. So we'll share how that whole process works, how the ICPC works, and we can get into more details too about like what we were required to provide and like the whole transition period as soon as we know more.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We have a lot of big events coming up and unknowns and
and a lot of it too was all like coming to a head during like day 1 and day 2 of our vacation. And honestly, I will say like that whole thing, like buying this property that we were planning on buying that it looks like we're fairly certain is not going to work out. Now that's kind of behind us and I'm feeling like kind of a weight lifted off. We also got a good night's sleep last night. We have a fun excursion planned today. I feel like the rest of the trip can only get better, hopefully. And hopefully that's the case too for like the next month or two during the moving and selling our house. And I'm just hoping it goes smoothly. We're definitely, if it doesn't go smoothly, it's not for lack of preparation.
Yeah.
Any closing words, Joel?
No, I don't think so. Hopefully this audio quality hasn't been too awful.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
And it's hard to say, too, when we'll have the chance to record another episode. We will try sooner rather than later. However, our schedules are kind of not super concrete right this second.
Yeah, I do feel like our move should be fairly okay, though, because we're flying Alex's mom and Tom in to... Grandma will fly back with Alex and the kids, and Tom and I will be driving our vehicles and most of our belongings to South Dakota. So hopefully it'll be easy for Alex and the kids and Grandma.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are flying a little bit better now that Ari is 2.5 and Brooks is almost 3. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy to say. But it seems like every time we fly has been a little bit easier than the last. But the other thing we're going to need a few positive vibes for, and by the time we post this, we probably will not, I mean, we'll probably be back in Nashville, but if there's a chance we can get it posted before that, we will try. And if that's the case, we're going to need vibes that we pass our COVID tests before we fly back into the U.S. because we're going to need to show a negative COVID test. And if we can't, we have to stay here for like another, 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, but the way this country works, I feel like we could probably just slip the tester a little bit of extra money if we tested positive, heaven forbid, to give us a...
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, but you can't put people at risk either.
Well, I know, but...
It would be devastating if we couldn't get back to the kids and our jobs and our life for an extra 7 to 10 days. So, with that being said, I hope you all have the most wonderful day and the most wonderful week, and we will jump back on and update you when we've got more as soon as possible.
Bye.
Bye.